everyone. I call the clerk as advised. We have a quorum. Therefore, I will call the meeting to order. Welcome to meeting number 91 of the House of Commons Standing Committee on Human Resources, Skills, Social Development, and the Status of Persons with Disabilities. Pursuant to the order, a reference of Wednesday, September 20th, 2023, the committee will commence its consideration of Bill C-318, an act to amend the Employment Insurance Act and the Canada Labour Code. Today's meeting is taking place in a hybrid format, meaning members are appearing in the room and virtually for this meeting, as well as witnesses. I would advise everybody participating, they can choose to speak in the official language of their choice. In the room, interpretation services are available using your headset. Virtually, please click on the globe icon on the bottom of your surface. Choose the language of your choice. If there is an interruption in interpretation, please get my attention by using the raised hand icon or raising your hand in the room. We'll suspend while it's being clarified. I would also like to remind those in the room participating, please make sure that your earpiece is away from the mic for the protection of our interpretation personnel. Today, and I also remind, please address your comments through I, the chair. And if there's an issue, again, get my attention. We'll suspend while it's being corrected. Today, in the first hour, we have appearing as a witness, a very distinguished witness in the person of Madame Falk, our committee member and member of Parliament. To open with, I take it you're doing a 5-minute statement, Ms. Falk? So we will begin with Ms. Falk for 5 minutes, please.
Thank you very much, Chair. So colleagues, today we're considering legislation that would have a significant impact on many families in each of our ridings right across this country. We know that bringing home a child is an exciting and life-changing event, and Canada's system of special benefits through the Employment Insurance Program is intended to provide parents with critical financial support during this special time in their lives. A paid leave allows parents to have the time that they need to bond and care for their child. All Canadian families are deserving of equal access to these benefits. But that is not the current reality. Our employment insurance program does not reflect the diversity of families in our country. The program discriminates against adoptive and intended families who cannot access maternity benefits and are therefore entitled to 15 weeks less leave. Correcting that inequity is the purpose of my private member's bill, and it is the correction that has been long overdue. While this bill is without question about equity and delivering parity to adoptive and intended parents, at its core, it is also about the well-being of the child. A sense of security and belonging contributes to a child's healthy development. These healthy attachments form over time as a parent bonds and care fors their child. And the benefits of attachment are lifelong. Adoptive and intended families are no less deserving of time with their child, nor is that time less needed. For families formed through adoption and surrogacy, attachment can be more complex. And the first year together is incredibly important in fostering healthy attachments. I have heard from countless families across the country who have expressed what 15 more weeks leave would have meant for their families. And the committee will have the opportunity to hear from just a few of these families. Unfortunately, every delay and every broken promise from this Liberal government means that there are more and more families who find themselves in this camp. Providing all families who have paid into our employment insurance program equal access to benefits is a common sense policy, and it should be a nonpartisan issue. In fact, every single political party in the House of Commons has in some form expressed support for this policy, and my private member's bill, C-318, was an opportunity for collaboration across all parties. Unfortunately, this Liberal government chose not to collaborate and instead decided to make this a partisan issue, which has been truly disappointing for me But more importantly, it has been devastating for the families across this country who have spent years advocating for this policy. For all the families who would be directly impacted, and all those who have been following the progress of this bill, despite promising to deliver a new benefit for adoptive parents in 2019 and again in 2021 elections, the Liberals failed to act on it. And when it came to C318, with the exception of 4 Liberal members of Parliament, the Liberals voted against this bill at second reading. In debate, one Liberal MP said, "We might have to put some limitations on some of the things we wanted to do as a result of the pandemic," which for a government that is shown to have zero control in spending taxpayers' money simply sends a message to families that they are not a priority. But that argument also does not compute when the Parliamentary Budget Officer had calculated the minimal impact of this benefit on the EI fund, confirming that premiums would not be impacted. And of course, we all know that these parents have already paid into the system. The Liberal member who went on and said in debate that this bill won't get a royal recommendation because his bill did not get a royal recommendation is probably a more accurate reflection of the petty and partisan strategy of this Liberal government. But, Mr. Chair, it is the Liberals that will answer for their vote. And now their apparent flip-flop. A new benefit supposedly identical to one proposed in Bill C318 and rejected by the Liberal government was announced in last week's fall economic statement. It offers adoptive and intended parents renewed hope, but it's not the first time the Liberals have made them promises. These families can't afford more broken promises and political games. It's time to give them the time they need and deserve with their families. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Ms. Falk, for your opening comments. Before we get to questioning, I just want to clarify. In the future, if a member chooses to use their speaking time to move a motion, one, they have every right to do that. The motions must be dealt with in the committee, but if they go beyond their timeline, I will, when the committee returns to its regular business, I will move to the next questioner on the line. I gave some leniency before to a number of ones, so just for clarification, if you use your speaking time to move a motion, which you're right to do, and it goes beyond the timeline before it's dealt with, then I will, when we return to committee business, I will move to the next speaker on the list. With that, we'll begin this round with Ms. Ferrari for 6 minutes, please.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you to Ms. Falk for not only bringing forward this really important private members bill, but for being here today and advocate on behalf of all parents. Ms. Falk, we have an infertility rate in Canada of 1 in 6 couples, and I'm curious to know why you personally brought forward this bill yourself.
Thank you very much for that question. I think you bring up and bring to light and recognize the realities that infertility is a growing issue within the country. And more people are, as technology and medicine advances, are accessing those treatments. And at the end of the day, this is just the right thing to do. If we have more and more people that are accessing those treatments, and we have kids that are waiting to be adopted, and we know that finances are very tight for families, especially when they're bringing in a new child to their family. It's the right thing to do to make parity between how families create and form their individual families.
Thank you for that. And it's, when you look online, many advocates are actually calling infertility a crisis in Canada. So I think your private members bill here, 318, is really, really critical. From your perspective, it was a little bit shocking in the House of Commons that Bill C-318 did not have unanimous support at the second reading. Can you tell us why you think that was?
I was given different reasons throughout debate. Some said it was because there was a royal recommendation that was needed. Others said that the government has done a lot of spending and they need to restrain on what they do. So I'm not sure why there wasn't unanimous support. I appreciate that I had the Bloc, the NDP, and also the Green members, and like I said, 4 members from the Liberal Party that did vote for it. I think at the end of the day, it just comes down to petty partisan politics, which is unfortunate that something that is really of a non-partisan nature and issue has turned into this. It was also frustrating for me. I had tried to reach out. Well, I did reach out to all parties. I never got responses until after the first hour of debate was already completed in the House from anybody in Cabinet to have a discussion about this.
Thank you for that. One of the big things that we're seeing right now, obviously, we have a cost of living crisis. You know, people are paying attention to how we spend taxpayers' money, which is ultimately what the government is. It doesn't have its own money. It has taxpayers' money. So I'm curious if you could break down what the financial implications would be of you offering this program and maybe just reiterate what it would mean. So it would give 15 weeks for adopted or intended parents. What does that look like to the taxpayer? How does that impact the budget?
For sure. So that's a great question. So as it is right now, families that are formed through surrogacy or adoption, they receive 15 less weeks leave. So that's 15 less weeks than if people chose not to go through surrogacy or adoption. So what that means is there's 15 weeks less of EI that can be claimed through the special benefit. So this benefit is labeled as a time to attach benefit, which would then give parity. So those that, because a lot of people don't know that when a woman says she's going on maternity leave, there's actually two benefits there. There's the maternity benefit and then the parental leave benefit. And so what this does is it just mirrors that. And if families want to extend their leave, because we know that this was done a few years ago, that parents can then extend their parental leave if they so wish, they still have that opportunity to extend the leave in the parental portion. But it's just mirroring the maternity time. And as the PBO costed and did his report, there would be no impact to EI premiums for Canadians that would have to pay into EI, as all Canadians do when they are working for an employer and then they remit that money.
So just to clarify then, nothing is impacted because parents, whether they be intended parents, biological parents, or surrogate, they are already paying that into the system. So you're not adding any more new spending.
Correct.
Thank you for that. Why do you think this 15-week attachment is so important? And I ask you this as also as critic to families, children, and social development. And we have a child care crisis in this country as well. And a lot of the infant programs in particular are being hit very, very hard. So I can see the benefit of being able to stay home longer, but also just from a parent's perspective, why do you think it is so important that this is added on, that 15 weeks? What do you think it will provide for child and parent?
Well, I think it makes a more even playing field. I know from talking to members of Parliament who have spoken to childcare providers in their respective ridings, they have been told that their daycares are closing their infant rooms because there is that opportunity to take extended leave in the parental portion. So what's happening is if an adoptive or an intended parent can claim the 15 weeks less, they're going to have to go back to work earlier. But there may not be space for them in an infant room because they would be needed in an infant area.
Ms. Ferrari, Mr. Long for 6 minutes.
Thank you, Chair. It's great to be back. And good morning to all of my colleagues. And MP Falk, good morning. And congratulations on the efforts you made. I think, I would tend to look at your private member's bill as an opportunity for you to highlight a cause, an opportunity for you to bring your beliefs, and obviously you're passionate about this, to the floor, that it's debated. Obviously there's a back and forth there, but honestly, to be frank, instead of kind of viewing it as I almost sense a little bit, to be honest, like negativity there. I would view it as a victory for you, too. I think that members in this House, whether it's in opposition or in sitting government, have that opportunity to bring things forth. And, I was happy to support you with that vote. But also, I think that as MPs, it's important for us to challenge government, whether you're sitting in government or you're sitting across the House. So, I thank you for the work you've done on it. I think obviously it's an important issue, which is why I was happy to support you. But I'm just wondering if you can give us some examples. I can certainly talk at length of adoptive parents that came into my constituency office and had the concerns about obviously the 15 weeks that they couldn't receive, and a time for bonding and so on and so forth. So I'm just wondering if you can give us a few examples of parents that came into your office and what they went through.
It's a really great question, and thank you very much, MP Long. I really appreciate your support on this. I'm glad that you've seen this as a common sense piece of legislation that really is the betterment for Canadians and Canadian families. There's a couple things I want to touch on. Attachment is so important. We know that generally speaking, first year of life, attachment is very important for parents and baby. But also when we look at adoption and surrogacy, it doesn't make it any less important just because it's come about in a different way. Attachment is so important for kids to feel safe, to feel secure, and to grow, especially within mental health, have healthy coping mechanisms, all these things. It helps with resilience. So attachment is so, so important. I think one thing I do want to say, too, regarding negativity, I'm not being negative. I'm just being honest. I'm just stating the facts of what had happened. And I don't see this as a win because it's not completed. I haven't seen any enacting legislation. I don't know if your government keeps the same intent with this. I don't know if things will be amended or would be changed. It's been very difficult for me to have a two-way communication with ministers in your government on this. I've been ignored. So I don't want it to be perceived as me being negative. I'm just stating facts. Also, too, I think this kind of proves the point that the Liberals are out of ideas. There's been numerous amount of private members' bills that have been taken from your government. We have bereavement leave. That was actually taken from the previous parliament by your government. And in this current fall economic statement, we've seen Bill C-323 and C-339 that were just a couple, including mine and more, that were taken from your government. So I think this actually just proves that the Liberals are out of fresh ideas and are grasping at straws. Regarding your question about Canadians that have been through adoption and surrogacy, absolutely. I think it'll be powerful and impactful to hear what those Canadians have to say, because I'm sure they're up as witnesses here. But I was surprised even to find out members of my own caucus had been adopted, and to hear their story and how that changed the trajectory of their lives, and that they were so grateful for that. And so that was to name a few. I have also adoption in my own family that has been completed and gone through the process.
Yeah, thank you. I obviously take exception to the fact, to your comment that we're out of ideas. I can't agree with you there. But one thing I did want to talk to you about, or ask you, MP Falk, was one of the significant differences with this legislation and what we, as government, have announced is allowing parents to begin leave before the arrival of the child. And is there a reason why you didn't include that in your bill?
Great question. Thank you for that. So the purpose of this bill was time to attach with child. So that could be at any age. Also, we did it so that it would mirror what was there already, so that we didn't maybe tip the scales and make things imbalanced at all. And so, again, this is about time to attach with the child, build those healthy relationships, and bond.
So you'd agree that this is a good change?
I have not seen the enacting legislation. I don't know
Proposed
if that's
change,
in
though?
there.
But you'd agree with that?
I would like to see the enacting legislation before I agree with anything.
Thank you.
Mr. Long. Madame Chabot pour 6 minutes.
Ms. Chabot for 6 minutes. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, colleague. Thank you for the initiative of this bill. We know that regarding the Employment Insurance Plan in Canada, a federal program, when we talk about the rules, we know that the system over time has become inequitable. One of the goals of this bill that you are advocating for, if I've understood correctly, is to reestablish equity toward biological parents and adoptive or intended parents. So we could allow there to be 15 additional weeks to have a fair system. What makes you believe this time that it will work? I'll give you another example. The Bloc Québécois and the Conservative Party have put forward bills regarding the number of weeks of sick leave. In our case, 50 weeks, in your case, 52 weeks. In both cases, we had support from all of the opposition parties. We even received unanimous support in committees, but at the end of the day, we were told we needed royal recommendation. Why would this time be the one that works?
Thank you very much for that question, and thank you for your and your party's support on this, what I believe is a very important initiative, so thank you. I think this proves the point that I was very surprised. I don't recall what the bill number was, but it was one of our colleagues, Bill, who came to this committee to extend sick leave for 52 weeks. And I was actually surprised that it passed this committee. All the members voted on it for it to go back to the House. We continued debate, and then it just dropped off because it didn't receive a royal recommendation. But again, we'd seen the Liberals say, oh, well, we're going to offer 50 weeks. I think this, again, speaks to the fact that they are out of ideas. And I don't know why it is. I understand the, I guess, optics maybe with a royal recommendation, but I think it is a wonderful opportunity for parties to collaborate and to get things done for Canadians. It's unfortunate that that happened in that scenario. This is why I come maybe pragmatically or cautiously with the announcement of this in the fall economic statement, because I won't believe it's done until I see that it's done.
Our party will support this bill, of course, because we've been fighting from the beginning for the EI system. Well, it's an employment insurance system that is funded by payments from workers and employers. So people pay into it, and the system, the parental system, favors and is seen as a system for women. And on our side, we feel we need to be fair. It's 2023. So for us, recognizing the same rights for a biological birth or adoption or surrogacy, it should be obvious. What additional argument could be made so that we can see this advancement, that it could be one advancement among many in terms of what we need to do to reform the EI system? So what are the elements, according to you, that could make a difference so that this time we can say we've accomplished the goal?
Collaboration. It'd be nice if, I mean, what was super frustrating for me is it was for sure in the Liberals' 2019 and 2021 platforms. So the fact that it's taken this long for it to kind of be started on their end, I mean, it seems like the Liberals waited till somebody did the work, which is hard work to draft legislation, especially when you're when it has such an impact on Canadians. It takes a lot of work to do the research to make sure that we're not missing things that could impact Canadians, because at the end of the day, it's families that it would impact. And then they scooped it up. So I'm grateful for having gone through this process and getting it this far. I hope that each one of us could vote for this, send it back to the House, and then ultimately it does receive a royal recommendation so we can make sure that Canadians are able to access a time to attach benefit.
Fini?
Done? I still have time? 5 seconds. 2015, 2019, 2021, the Liberals have always promised to do a global reform of the EI system. I hope that with the discussions we'll have, that it will happen this time, and that we'll at least be able to advance on this issue. I hope we make more progress. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Merci, Madame Chabot.
Thank you, Ms. Chabot.
For 6 minutes, please.
Thank you, Chair. It's an honor to be here. Thank you, Madame Falk, for this legislation. When we talk about adoption today and surrogacy, it's a very different pattern than, say, what would have been adoption in the 1960s. We see children who are in the foster care system who may be transitioning into family, many children who may be older. And then, of course, there's the issue of families, more and more families raising children through surrogacy. Have you got a percentage, a pattern of what we're looking at in terms of the children and their ages and who would be who would benefit from this legislation?
Ultimately, thank you. Well, first of all, Charlie, let me start by thank you for supporting this initiative. I think it's very important, and I appreciate your party's support for this as well. I think, as per statistics, I don't have that on me, but there are so many children. I mean, there's different veins, so to say, right? There's different types of adoption. We do know too that when kids are placed, they could be in foster care, they could not. But sometimes they sit there for a while, waiting, and it gets harder as kids get older. And we have to also take into account too that sometimes it's not just a singular child. Sometimes it's a family group, right? And that there are families out there that really want to make sure that that family is still together and be able to raise all the sibling group together. So I would say, this reaches different veins within the Canadian society. And especially, I think, something, too, that MP Ferreri brought up earlier with infertility. I think that that's something that is something that needs to be acknowledged. There are many Canadians that are struggling with infertility issues and will go to whatever extent, however, even much. It's quite an investment for some families in time, but also in money to form their family.
Thank you for that, and I certainly know many young people who've grown into wonderful adults as they were able to be adopted in, and I'm still in touch with many of them. But in the other area, certainly in our region, in Treaty 9, in Indigenous communities, adoption has a very negative and dark, and it's still. So the issue of kinship and customary caregivers, that's not covered in the bill, right? What were you thinking in terms of the decision around that?
Thank you very much for that question. So it isn't excluded in the bill. So what we did is we mirrored the wording that was in the EI Act. And the way that, from our understanding, that parental leave is currently applied through regulations allows those who are in a customary care relationship the opportunity to apply, to still apply for this benefit. So it would be my expectation, but also my intent, that the department would mirror those regulations and how they're applied, I guess.
We just had Bill C-92 pass, which gives the legal right for Indigenous First Nations to establish their own child and their child family policies, particularly to address the inequities that were caused by adoption of children being taken out of their communities and losing their identity. Quebec, Manitoba, maybe not now, but Manitoba then, and Alberta and the Northwest Territories are going to the Supreme Court to oppose this legislation. Have you looked at the potential impacts of C-92 and the challenge against First Nation communities having the right to set their own adoption and family child practices in terms of your bill?
In regards to this bill, what the intent that I had with it was to make sure that all families had time to attach. And so that was parity across lines. Didn't matter how they wanted to form their family. So I would say attachment definitely, it doesn't matter what culture, it doesn't matter what ethnicity, it doesn't matter what race. Attachment is so, so important for the safety, the well-being, and the development of any child. So that's the heart and the intent of this bill, to make sure that these kiddos can have that time to attach and also to, I think, work through some trauma, right? I think every child, it doesn't matter. I mean, actually, I would argue every single one of us around this table has gone through some type of trauma in our life. It doesn't matter what that was. But sometimes some families that, or some kids that are getting adopted into families, sometimes there's trauma. And I think it's just so important that we make sure that there's that time and that opportunity for healing. I mean, working on oneself is always really hard and really messy, and especially when you're a younger person, your brain hasn't fully developed. Experiences shape the things that you do and you say. And so the intent with this bill is to make sure that there's that time to attach.
I'm just in my final seconds here. In terms of the strategy of moving forward, I've been in opposition 20 years, so I've lived my life on trying to force government to do stuff they didn't want to do. Are you expecting this to get a royal recommendation, or are you expecting it to get blocked on a royal recommendation, and whether or not then to force the Liberals to just adopt it anyways?
That's a very good question. I assume they will not give a royal recommendation, even though they have been petitioned by Canadians for a royal recommendation on this bill. I mean, as I said in my opening remarks, one of the members actually said, well, my bill didn't get a royal recommendation, so your bill isn't going to get a royal recommendation. So that's the intent behind it, which is really unfortunate. And again, like I said previously to MP Long, until I see the enacting legislation, will I know what their intent is with this moving forward.
Thank you, Mr. Angus. Ms. Gray for 5 minutes.
Great, thank you, Mr. Chair, and I want to thank our colleague for bringing this private member's bill forth. It was a true privilege of mine to be the seconder of this bill, and excuse me, as someone that was adopted at birth, it really means a lot. I spoke about it. It was a very personal speech that I gave, and I also have another sister that was adopted at birth. And I know that, with our family, it was my mom didn't work. She was a teacher. She had to take quite a bit of time off. Did put a lot of, personal financial strain on our family. That's just a personal note, and so I'm really glad to see something like this come forth, and I think it's really important. One of the witness, someone that had written into the committee actually, and you touched on it just really briefly, had spoken about the childcare spaces, but her comment had to do with the extra expense of children under under 12 months, which I thought was a really interesting comment from her. And is that something else that you've heard as well?
So I have heard from family members and also constituents, Canadians, that when little kids, like infants, have to go into an infant room in daycare, they actually have to pay more money for them. Just because they're little infants, right? They need a little bit more caring and a little bit more attention because of that lack of ability to communicate, right, with adults. So it does cost more money to put an infant child, and it doesn't necessarily mean it ends at 12 months either. It kind of goes on milestones for that child. So the daycare or day home that they would be in would decide based on milestones met and the needs and the time that child needs, when that child could be moved to the toddler room, for example, as opposed to the infant's room, which does sometimes come with a decrease in childcare price.
Great, thank you very much. And I know that we're going to hear from some witnesses over the coming days. But for now, I want to bring us to other important committee business. So I would like to move the following motion that pursuant to the order of reference of Thursday, November 9th, 2023, the Minister of Employment, Workforce Development and Official Languages, the Minister of Housing, Infrastructure and Communities, the Minister of Diversity, Inclusion and Persons with Disabilities, the Minister of Labour and Seniors, the Minister of Families, Children and Social Development, and the Minister of Citizen Services appear before the committee for 1 hour each to consider the supplementary estimates B between Monday, December 4th, 2023 and Monday, December 11th. And this is in reference to our last meeting where we were discussing a similar motion. However, there was an amendment and a sub-amendment, and this is to clean that motion up. There was, and in order to bring consensus for some of the comments that were made at that committee. And so this motion is to take that into consideration and of some of the discussion that was at the last committee from all committee members. And so I'm hoping that this can be an easy motion that we can approve of today. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Ms. Gray. Clerk, the motion is in order to be debated. So we have a motion before the committee. Ms. Gray.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And I just want to ask the clerk for clarification as to the comment that the chair had made earlier, just about having resolution to a motion that's being brought forth at the committee for the timing of it and when the debate and vote would happen and how that works into the committee timing.
Sorry, Ms. Gray, you must have misunderstood me. I said that the motions are non-time limit and only can be dealt with when they come to the end. But if a member moves it in their time lot and the debate proceeds beyond that and the committee dispenses with the motion, I would continue on with the next questioner in the committee. Had nothing to do with the timeline under the motion. Is that clear? Am I clear? Yeah. It was in relation to right now when you moved it, you had about 2 minutes left in your timeline. If the timeline to dispense with the motion moves beyond that, and the committee is still in committee timeline, I will return to normal business with the next speaker on the list. Mr. Fragascatos, but it has, just so we're clear, it has no restriction on the timeline to debate your motion or who participates. Mr. Fragascatos, on the motion of Ms. Gray.
Thank you, Chair. I will move an amendment to the motion so that it reads, I'm looking at the last sentences, appear before the committee for no fewer than, and this is the change, I'll speak slowly for the clerk, appear before the committee for no fewer than 1 hour each, comma, in 2 panels of 3, comma, to consider the supplementary estimates, and that the date be stricken as well. So the motion would be amended to end after the parentheses closing the capitalized B.
Okay.
And
now we're
unless you have others.
To proceed to the members call for a vote on his amendment. Ms. Ferrari on the amendment of Mr. Fragus-Catos.
Thanks, Chair. So just for clarification, and I know the clerk will probably read this out again, but I was writing, so just, you want 2 panels of 3 ministers? Is this correct?
That's what I said, yes.
So 2 panels of 3 for 1 hour each? So this is what we had this discussion with last time at committee, where this is not enough time. I don't understand the rationale here, other than you don't want the ministers to testify and to answer questions. That's the only thing that makes any sense here. That is not enough time. 2 panels of 3 ministers, 1 hour each. We need accountability, we need transparency, we need to know how the Liberals are spending taxpayers' money, and this amendment is not sufficient to do that.
Thank you, Ms. Ferrari. We have Mr. Aitchison, Ms. Gray, Mr. Fragus-Catos, and then Mr. Angus.
I wonder if Mr. Fragus-Catos was going to clarify. That's my understanding, is that what we're asking for is an hour for each minister, but Mr. Fragus-Catos' amendment would limit it to an hour, 2 separate meetings, or 2 hours for 3 ministers, or an hour for 3 ministers, and then another hour for another 3 ministers. Is that what you're asking? And that there's no timeline when this would happen, that it could happen just whenever they could coordinate.
We
Sorry,
would.
I'm not
Go ahead.
I'm not quite done yet. So that it would be at any time, whenever I guess these 3 ministers could coordinate their schedules to come and talk to us and answer some questions, and then there'd only be an hour for the 3 of them, and then we'd have to see if the next 3 ministers can coordinate their schedules sometime before the end of time, and they could come and speak to us. Is that what you're asking for?
Well, I am on the speaking list. I was going to say something, but
Questions through the chair?
Sorry, Mr. Chairman, I'm wondering if that's what Mr. Fragus-Catos is asking for.
Okay, he will address that when he comes. If that's clear, we'll go to Ms. Gray, and then Mr. Fragus-Catos, and then I have Mr. Angus, and then Madame Shabbat on the amendment. Ms. Gray.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So basically what the Liberals are asking for is to have 3 ministers here for 1 hour. So here's how this will practically play out. Each of the ministers could give a 5-minute intervention. And what that means is that, therefore, when you look at the rounds, is that as the official opposition, we would get 2 questions, maybe 3, probably just 2. And so that means that we would get to ask 1 round of questions to 1 minister. One of the ministers we may not even be able to question. And that's only 1 round of questions. You're looking at potentially either 6 or 5 minutes. That is really unacceptable, especially considering that we have a new minister, Minister of Citizen Services, who has a mandate letter. This is a minister that has not come before here, and we'll be able to ask him a few minutes of questions. That is absolutely unacceptable. We've got a lot of real serious issues that we're dealing with this government. This is a real lack of transparency. This is a lack of accountability. And, tying it down to this, we don't even have an opportunity. That means that only one of our members will be able to ask 1 round of questions, potentially for 2 ministers. So most of the members on this committee won't even have an opportunity on the opposition side on the official opposition side to ask questions. This is really unacceptable. And I don't know why this government is wanting to reduce transparency and accountability.
Thank you, Ms. Gray. Mr. Fragus-Catos on.
Sure, Mr. Chair. No, I've made the point. It's been understood. If we really wanted to play games here, Mr. Chair, I suppose there could have been scheming to ensure that no ministers would appear. But we're not saying that. We're serious in this. And in fact, Mr. Chair, it would be interesting if you go back into the record. I'm not sure about HUMA, although you would find it at other committees, certainly. During the years of Stephen Harper, you found efforts along the same lines of what Ms. Gray has put forward, but Conservatives blocking the path entirely for Conservative ministers to appear. We're not doing that. We do want ministers here to appear. We do want members around the table to be able to ask questions and therefore hold the government to account. And that's precisely what the amendment would do. So I'll just end there. I think it's quite clear. Mr. Aitchison has now understood where I'm coming from. Mr. Aitchison has understood where I'm coming from, and we're all good. At least I'm good.
Thank you, Mr. Fragascatos. Next, I have Mr. Angus, followed by Madame Shabat and Madame Ferrari on the amendment.
Thank you. Well, as a visitor to your committee, I'm fascinated by the. This is certainly audacious. 6 ministers. I've been in opposition as far back. I'm so old. I remember when Paul Martin was here. I remember when Stephen Harper was here. God, getting a minister to a committee was life changing. 6 ministers. That's something. I think the most I've ever seen is 2. I would have suggested a more narrower focus with a longer time so that you could actually drill down. But if you want 6 ministers, even getting them to all appear at the same time, who knows when that's going to happen. But good luck with it. But we're interested in the amendment because I don't think you could take on this many ministers in this order on as it stands now for the supplementary estimates. I just think that's much too big of an appetite. But if they were wanting to lessen the number of ministers and extend the time, we'd be open to that. Or we'll follow the debate and see where it goes.
Thank you, Mr. Angus. Madame Shabat.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We've had this debate before last time. I said, well, I agree with the fact that we would meet with each minister for 1 hour. Last time there was a debate, the initial motion talked about 2 hours. That's too much. But here at the HUMA committee, this is a committee where there are many ministers who are concerned by the committee, the Minister of Labour, Minister of Employment, of Housing, of Family, Seniors, and it wouldn't be unusual for the HUMA committee to have ministers come so that we can question them. We've done it before. It may seem to be many ministers, 6, but listen, it's part of responsibility that HUMA has in terms of its files, and it's important to me. So I would disagree with what is proposed. I've said it before. A 1-hour block with 3 ministers seems unlikely if we want to ensure that we can meet them to talk about mandate letters we haven't seen and in terms of spending. So I would disagree with the panel of 3 ministers. I think that takes away of our democratic right to question our ministers. And for the HUMA committee, well, it's a committee that has a lot of responsibilities. We've had the Minister of Housing already. We know how important it is. The Minister of Labour, of Employment, of the Minister of Families. So I think it's honest to propose that each one comes for 1 hour. Thank you, Mr. Chair. So I would be against the amendment.
Okay. Thank you, Madame Shabat. Madame Ferrari on the amendment.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I would like to, through you, Mr. Chair, I think the comment coming from the Liberal side, from Mr. Fragascatos, of threatening no ministers it certainly felt like a threat, MP Fragascatos, and to say if you want to play games and we'll bring no ministers, what message does that send to the Canadians, to the Canadian public? Oh, fine, we don't have any accountability, we don't have any transparency. You know what, we just won't have anyone show up. We'll give you little scraps. So I think that was very, quite frankly, arrogant. You work for the Canadian people, you are spending their money, they deserve accountability and transparency through you, Mr. Chair. The second point I'd like to make is to my NDP colleague who is visiting today, and thank you for doing that, but he's left the room. I find it a little bit shocking that the NDP are supposed to be for the people, and somebody who has earlier stated in today's meeting that he's been in opposition for 20 years, he should know how important it is to call these people into committee to get answers. And let's just put out on the table right now what has come out this morning as anybody was listening to the news. The number of people accessing a food bank in Ontario has increased by 38% from the previous year, making this the single largest single-year increase ever recorded by Ontario's food bank network. More than 1 in 6 visitors say they are employed, which is an 82% increase over 2016 to 2017 and a 37% increase over the previous year. We are asking for the ministers who are in charge of our most vulnerable Canadians to come here and to be transparent and to make solutions, to come to the table with solutions of how we're going to help our most vulnerable. Diversity, inclusion, and persons with disabilities. The Minister of Labour and seniors. If you're not getting countless emails and phone calls from seniors and people who are struggling, you're not doing your job. The Minister of Families, Children, and Social Development. So 100% this sub-amendment is skirting accountability and transparency, which is sadly what we have come to expect from, quite frankly, this NDP Liberal coalition that we've seen here today.
Point of order.
Point of order from Mr. Angus.
Yeah, and this kind of smear that I'm this NDP Liberal coalition, she can debate the facts, but she doesn't need to throw that falsehood around.
Thank you, Mr. Angus. I would remind members to keep their comments to the debate at hand, the motion, and currently we're debating the amendment of Mr. Fragascatos. Seeing no further debate, I will then call for a recorded vote on the amendment of Mr. Fragascatos. Mr. Clerk? Yes, please read the amendment, but we're going to a vote on the amendment.
The amendment is as follows. Appear before the committee for no fewer than 1 hour each, comma, in 2 panels of 3, comma, to consider the supplementary estimates B, period.
Recorded vote, Mr. Clerk.
Mr. Fragascatos.
Yes.
Mr. Long.
Yes.
Mr. Collins. Mr. Koto.
Yes.
Mr. Van Bynen.
Yes.
Ms. Gray.
No.
Ms. Falk. No. Ms. Ferrari.
No.
Mr. Aitchison.
No.
Madame Chabot.
No.
Mr. Angus.
Yes.
6 yeas, 5
Amendment
nays.
is adopted by the committee. We'll go to a vote on the motion of Ms. Gray as amended. Recorded vote, Mr. Clerk.
Mr. Fragascatos.
Yes.
Mr. Long.
Yes.
Mr. Collins. Yes. Mr. Koto.
Yes.
Mr. Van Bynen.
Yes.
Ms. Gray.
No.
Ms. Falk. No. Mrs. Ferrari.
No.
Mr. Aitchison.
No.
Madame Chabot.
No.
Mr. Angus.
Yes.
The motion has been adopted.
As amended.
As amended. We will, actually, we only have 3 minutes left of the first round, and I will, to conclude, I'll go to Mr. Van Bynen to conclude the first hour with Ms. Falk on C318. Mr. Van Bynen?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'd like to move away from the politics of this discussion and talk about the merits of the bill. I do commend you for bringing this bill forward. My first question is how would the bill create parity for adoptive parents and intended parents of children born through surrogacy, and how does the attachment needs of children born through surrogacy differ from those of other adopted children?
Thank you very much, MP Van Bynen, for that question. It will add the additional 15 weeks that parents that adopt or are intended parents that have a child through surrogacy will be able to then have those or get those benefits. And what was your second question?
How are the attachment needs of children born through surrogacy differ from those of other adoptive children?
Well, attachment is attachment. This is where I said previously, it doesn't matter what age. That first year within placement or birth is so critical for the health and development, specifically in the regard of attachment to that child, and helps them feel safe, secure, helps with resiliency skills, helps with the development not only physically but also mentally, cognitively.
Okay, thank you. And how was it determined that 15 weeks was an appropriate length of time for the attachment benefit?
So attachment is lifelong. It's not just a 1 year, 365-day the job's done. Attachment is something that needs to be constant. The first year, of course, is very critical, as I've said numerous times, especially when we are looking at children who may have experienced trauma. It's important to be able to have that time with their family to work through that, help them feel comfortable, safe, and secure. So attachment, there isn't just a number that, 365 days, check, I'm attached, I'm good. It's something that continually goes on and on and on. So when we look at parenting in specific, it's why we definitely want to have attachment with our children once they get into sometimes those teenage years where they're more difficult experiences that sometimes kids experience in schools and such. And so it's good to be able to have that attachment and bond secured so that parents can be there to help guide and have conversations and grow their relationship with their children throughout life.
Okay, thank you. And what is the rationale for only providing this benefit the week in which the child is placed rather than much earlier?
We mirrored the current existing legislation.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm probably out of time, am I?
You got 1 minute. If you have a question for Ms. Falk, we have reached the 1 hour time. So, but if you one more question for Ms. Falk,
No, I'm fine, thank you.
You're fine. Okay. With that, thank you, Ms. Falk, for appearing for the first hour as a witness on C318. Ms. Falk?
Thank you very much,
Closing
Chair,
comment?
and committee for having me here to explain the bill. I genuinely, sincerely hope that I have everybody's support on this going forward and that there is a miracle and the Liberals decide to give a royal recommendation.
Thank you, Ms. Falk. With that, we will suspend for a few moments while we prepare for the second hour of witness testimony on Bill C-3118. So we'll suspend for
3 minutes.
3 minutes. Suspend. at the second hour under with witness testimony on Bill C-318. We have with us in person in the room Julie Despatie, Madame, Executive Director of Adopt for Life, and appearing pour la Fédération des Parents Adoptants.
For the Federation of Adoptive Parents of Quebec, Anne-Marie Morel,
Présidente,
the President.
Madame Despatie pour...
Ms. Despatie, for 5 minutes, please. Go ahead.
Bien, merci de m'avoir.
Thank you for having me here today.
Adopt for Life was founded in 2014 and provides education, advocacy, and community to the tapestry of families connected by adoption, kinship, and customary care relationship, as well as those at risk of breaking down because of complex needs, and the professionals who support them. We envision a future where every family has equitable access to support, resource, and community. By breaking down isolation and supporting vulnerable families in needs of innovative parenting approaches, we enable family preservation as well as through strong and healthy connections. Today, I stand in front of you as the Executive Director of Adopt for Life, but most importantly, as an adoptive mom, carrying the message of my children and thousands of families who have raised their voice since 2018, so that future families formed through adoptions do not have to face the additional burden that a short 35 weeks of parental leave creates and adds to their complex parenting journey. Today, I am here to remind us all to listen to the basic yet fundamental ask of thousands of children and youth who have come upon us and asked us to legislate, to make the legislative needs change that will ensure that all children and youth awaiting permanency in Canada are given enough time to attach to their new parents and caregivers. For over 8 years, Adopt for Life, along with CYPCC and partners across the country, have been advocating for a new benefit leave for adoptive parents who are providing permanency to children. Why is time to attach so critical? Becoming a family overnight is not easy. When you receive the call that you will be having your children coming in, there's nothing that prepares you to be fully ready to navigate that complexity of parenting. Today, the landscape of adoption has changed differently over the past 20 years. Today, children who are waiting to be adopted are often over the age of 7 and often in their teens and part of sibling groups. In fact, across Canada, we're seeing an overrepresentation of children with coexisting medical and neurodevelopmental challenges within the child welfare. Once a child enters a child welfare and is later adopted, they have experienced significant breakdown in attachment and many losses, and often complex trauma. They have endured many moves and many disruptions, significantly impacting their attachment and making it difficult for them to trust the adult in their life. Can we blame them? The current 35 weeks of parental leave is just not long enough and adds unnecessary stress to families, and therefore increases the risk of placement and adoption breakdown. This was evidenced in a formal study led by the University of Western in partnership with us at Adopt for Life in 2018. The study revealed that during transition, the study reveals that during the transition into their new families, over 50% of children that were experiencing significant sadness, complex needs, and struggling with mental health. Meanwhile, 94% of adoptive parents said that they would have benefited from a 15 weeks of attachment leave. 72% said that the current leave did not provide enough time for their children to transition smoothly into their homes. And what is more critical is that 21% said that the current leave prevented them from adopting a child with complex needs. Canada must do better for all of its children. The additional time attachment leave will allow children to spend a full year with their new parents, affording them more times to create strong bonds and develop the attachment that they need to begin trusting and integrating into their new family. I founded Adopt for Life after welcoming a sibling group of 3 older children. There were 8, 11, and 13. The initial year was not easy for them and for us, parents. I knew we needed a community to come together so that we could effect the changes needed to ensure parents and caregivers would be well supported so that they could be strong for their children. I would like to leave you on this thought. If we want a stronger tomorrow for our children, we must do right by them. As my good friend, Erwin Ellman says, he was Ontario's former child and youth provincial advocate. You can't legislate the love, but you can legislate the condition into which love can flourish. Time to attach is essential to creating the right conditions for love to flourish, especially when it is most needed during the first year together. I would like to say my deepest gratitude to all MPs, all ministers, and all civil servants who have stood by Time to Attach and supported the needs of children and youth, and most especially to MPs who have dared walk the path and share their permanency journey with us. Your stories are living with me. Thank you.
Merci, Madame Dupaty. Madame Morel.
Ms. Morel, for 5 minutes. Great. Thank you for giving the Fédération des Parents Adoptants du Québec, the Federation of Adoptive Parents of Quebec, the opportunity to speak about Quebec's experience with adoption leave. The Federation is a non-profit organization established in 1986, offering services by and for adoptive parents to support, inform, and refer them, and to defend their interests. It was in this context that the Federation called for and obtained equity of benefits between biological parents and adoptive parents within the Quebec Parental Insurance Plan. As you know, Quebec workers who take leave related to the birth or arrival of a child receive benefits from this plan and not from employment insurance. Benefits are more generous overall, in keeping with the province's existing family policies. Nevertheless, when the plan came into effect on January 1st, 2006, there was an 18-week gap in benefits between adoptive and biological families. The inequity obviously affected workers who adopted, but also their children, since adopted children were the only children in Quebec at the time not to be able to benefit from a year of parental presence when they arrived with their families. More than an inequity, this was even discrimination, as demonstrated by lawyer Éric Poirier and Université de Sherbrooke law professors Carmen Lavallée and Daniel Proulx in an article calling the Quebec Parental Insurance Plan a system that discriminated against adopted children. It is undeniable that this type of work insurance plan has a direct impact on the child. Since January 1st, 2021, Quebec provides adoptive parents with benefits equivalent to those of biological parents in terms of duration and level of income and replacement. This measure, which has re-established equity, has a minimal relative effect on the program's financial health because there are far fewer adoptive parents than other parents. In Quebec, in 2022, adoptive parents accounted for just 0.5% of benefits granted to new parents. The program's financial stability is therefore not significantly dependent on this factor. What's more, not only is the extra time spent by adoptive parents beneficial to parents and children, it's also good for employers. As reported by several adoptive families who were able to take advantage of the extra weeks granted by the recent adoption support benefits, employees returned to work with increased mental presence, having had the time they need to integrate the child into a childcare environment with the particular sensitivity required in the case of an adoption. They no longer seem to carry as much of the guilt felt by adoptive parents who are unable to meet experts' recommendation to spend at least 1 year full-time with their newly adopted child. They also had more time to help the child catch up on developmental delays and health recovery, and to bond with each other. In fact, investing in time with a child who has endured a number of life's twists and turns and broken ties with his or her biological mother, and often with several foster caregivers, is an investment in giving the child a chance to reach his or her full potential and contribute to our society. It also means preventing certain harmful behaviors and learning difficulties arising from psychological injuries, which can lead to the working parent having to take time off work. In short, the needs of adoptive families are certainly very different, but no less important. Every extra week spent with an adopted child in the first year has an impact on their development and the relationships they will have for the rest of their lives. Thank you.
Merci.
Thank you, Ms. Morel.
We'll begin with Ms. Falk for 6 minutes.
Thank you very much, Chair. And I'd like to thank both of the witnesses for being here today and being willing to contribute to this study in a very thoughtful and meaningful way. Julie, if it's okay if I call you Julie, I'd like to start with you. What are some of the risks of returning to work quickly after the 35-week parental leave for the child?
Well, as you can imagine, when children are joining us, they're not little ones, and so for them, they need a lot of time to know that you're going to be around and you're going to be present. And when you had the stress of going back to work, you bring new stress in the house that's already filled with a lot of stress because you're adapting to one another. We haven't benefited from the first initial 9 months to become accustomed to one another, and then the full year of growing and getting the attachment and the child knowing that they're secure. They come with loss, as I mentioned earlier. They don't know how they can really trust the adults in their life. They don't know if you're going to just leave, like many of the families that have left before in foster cares, and they've moved around and all of that. So adding the 15 weeks would truly allow for a child to live a full cycle of 1 year, and so not leave in any ambiguity of not knowing how that would be. The 3 months that are missing are so crucial, and truly they impact the family dynamic as a whole as well.
How about risks on the parent, for the parent returning to work too quickly?
Well, as a parent, if I speak a bit about my own experience, as a parent, I was at the receiving end of a lot of the struggles that my kids were experiencing. And stress is toxic. And so when you are confronted to having to go back to work, your mental health can be impacted. Post-adoption depression is a reality. It doesn't mean because you've been wanting to grow your family through adoption that there's not struggles. And so we need to make sure that we're supporting our families. And if they return to work too quickly, often they end up having to claw back from work. Many of them are actually having, yesterday afternoon, we held a community gathering of parents here in Ottawa. And I met with a few new adoptive parents. Actually, both of them were single mom. One had just returned into work. But she told me that she had to take 6 months out of pocket as a single mom. So she had to draw from her own safety or savings to really make sure that she was going to be the mom that her child needed. If we could, as parents, I promise you, we would want to go back to work because it's nice to be stimulated outside of the house. But it's also important we do the things that we do so that our children can be strong, because once they're securely attached and they know that they can trust us, the sky is the limit. I mean, as much as their abilities are, they can really navigate this world differently. And I just wanted to add another one. I just spoke to another lady who, she is on her parental leave currently, again, a single mom, and she can't afford to defer the time, to return to work. And she's really hoping that this will be embedded before she has to go back to work. So it's really important for parents to not have to compete the stress with work and the stress of, transitioning and adopting their children in their home.
I also wanted to ask you, Julie, because you did talk about a little bit of your own experience.
Yes.
What impact did the 15 less weeks have on you, but also your family's adoption journey, if you feel comfortable with that?
Absolutely. I just never went back to work. I never went back to work after, we had, as I mentioned earlier, we had a sibling group of 3 older children all together. They were, I called them my triplets, all talking back, all different ages, right? So when they came in the house, there was no, I received calls daily from school. I had to put in place, support. And, even 10 years ago, support was hard to line up. And today, post-COVID, it's actually even harder. There's long lists. And so you don't know the children that you will have that's coming into your home. And so it takes a lot of time and energy and spending days on the phone and searching and leveraging all of your connections so that you can get your kids to the right support that they need. So for me, it took, I funded Adopt for Life. So I was working around the clock around my own clock, but being available to drop in anytime, because I truly don't believe that any employers, as much as a good worker and committed person I am, could have ever afforded me the time that I needed to go and pick up for my kids and be there for them.
Just with the remaining seconds I have, I just want to thank you, Julie, for all the work that you've done, for being willing to be vulnerable in public of some of the struggles, but also the joys that you've had in adopting your sibling group.
Thank you,
Chair.
Rosemary. It's a pleasure to be able to speak to something that I'm so passionate about, because ultimately family needs enough time to be able to thrive together.
Thank you, Ms. Falk. Mr. Coteau for 6 minutes.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair, and thank you to the witnesses. It's nice to see you again, Julie. I think the last time I saw you was maybe in 2021 when you came to see me in my office, or I think we met virtually then. But I'm aware of the work your organization has done over the years. The work we did back at the Ontario Legislature when I was the Minister for Children and Youth Services, and the new benefits we put in place back in 2016. So I just want to say thank you for all of the work that everyone is doing to support children in general. And contrary to what we heard the Conservatives say at the beginning, my whole life has been about supporting young people, and this government I think has done the most work to support young people out of any previous government, from the dental benefits to the child benefit, to child care, $10 a day. These are big programs for kids. And I want to remind the Conservatives who were critical of the pathway to get here that they had a decade in government and they did nothing on this file. So I'm proud to be part of a government that's looking for ways to constantly improve and look for ways to support children. So I guess my first question is the proposed changes in the fall economic statement. How, and this to both witnesses, what do you think? Is it what you saw, what you read in the actual document? Is this aligned with where you want to go? So we can open up to anyone, but I'd like to have both witnesses respond, please.
Well, thank you. First of all, as my former minister and founder, you know how much I am passionate about ensuring that all our children are thriving. I will remain non-partisan here, so I will just say that to us, what really matters is that a time to attach of 15 weeks is being offered to adoptive parents, kin, and customary care. We need to support families where they are needing the support so that they can thrive and have enough time to attach without having external stressors to come and compete with that.
Yep. And would the additional witness like to comment, or just about the fall economic statement piece that was published and reported on? Any comments?
Mute. I see you have your hand up. Can you unmute yourself if you want?
Oui, j'avais pas entendu l'interprétation.
I hadn't heard the interpretation, I'm sorry. So I agree with what Julie mentioned. Knowing that we will have those weeks means that people throughout the leave won't have the stress of seeing the end coming up. So those additional 15 weeks will let parents rest easy. They won't have to think about how they'll find the money to continue with unpaid leave. Because all of the experts, there's really a strong consensus that you need to spend at least 1 year at home with children. And parents are told this during evaluations with professionals. They really try to organize their lives to do this. And as Julie said very well, many of the children that we adopt are children who have special needs, who will need to go to speech therapy, for example, or physiotherapy, ergotherapy in the future. Treatments that often we have to go to the private sector for because there aren't enough public services. So the money we spend by being on unpaid leave during the adoption, well, we don't have that money to support our children later on. So taking that financial stress off their shoulders when they see that the leave will last a year, that will make all of the difference. That's what parents have been telling us for 2 years.
Yeah, the relationship between a parent and a child at that, initial stage in a young person's life, as early as possible. It could be right when they're born. It could be in the first, several years. But, I remember when I was back at the Ministry of Children and Youth Services, and some of the statistics just alone on, when a child feels safe, when a child is comforted in the right way, when a child feels protected, how it changes the trajectory of that child's life and the success that they find in life. And, you go back to the very basics for, raising a child, and it's some of the things that we just assume we take for granted can have the largest impact in the success of a family and especially that child. So again, I just want to say thank you for the work you're doing. I know it's been a long road to get to this point, but to me, this is a major win for children in this country and for families. And again, I just want to say, it took this government to make it happen, and we're going to continue to work and do everything we can to support young people in this country. Because there's no question, young people, when they're off on the right pathway, it builds our country economically, socially, and allows us to achieve our dreams as a country. So I just want to say thank you so much for everything you've done, and to the entire sector for getting us to this point, because it's your hard work that has brought us to this point. No one else's. It's your work. So thank you so much, and I'll end there, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Coteau. Your time is through. Madame Chabot pour 6 minutes.
Ms. Chabot, 6 minutes. Thank you. Thank you, really, Ms. Despatie and Ms. Morel, for joining us today. We can really tell that you have a lot of commitment to families, including parents and children in the process. And I would like to say this is about equity. This is a feminist issue before us regarding the rights of women, regardless of the choice, having a child in the family, to have it be equitable and to be able to take care of our children. Ms. Morel, you explained that in Quebec. Well, we're proud in Quebec to have the Quebec Parental Insurance Plan paired with early childhood education for over 25 years. I think that's good family policy. But how did that argument help you in fighting to obtain equity with the Quebec Parental Insurance Plan in 2021? Yes, well, it did help us when we spoke about it from the child's perspective. When we think of a parental insurance plan, you think of the employee, but it helped us to raise awareness around the child and the impact with other services in our society, the impact on the education system, on the healthcare system, the fact that the parent can spend time with the child. Earlier, someone spoke about how attachment has impacts on the ability to learn. So the child can study well at school. The child needs to feel secure at home. So all of those aspects are aspects we put forward in calling for a QPIP that looked at the family's impact. But the notion that held us up was fear of discrimination against biological parents versus adoptive parents. And that was rapidly dealt with because offering more to some parents took nothing away from the pregnant worker or other workers. So everyone would receive benefits for different needs, quite simply. So that was a major advancement, major progress, and we see the difference for families and children and work. That was my next question. Yes, a victory. We hope to see that here too, at the federal level, in Quebec. It's been a little over 2 years now. Have you seen changes since the implementation of this new rule? Yes, there are parents. Please turn off the microphone. So parents who've adopted older children take the full year. Even if the child goes to school, this allows them, and experts have confirmed it, that they can take care of all of the other tasks during the school day. They can go pick the child up at lunchtime, share that time with the child, pick the child up right away at the end of school, and be totally available to the child because the meal is ready, all of the tasks that a parent has to do in the evening are done, and then they're able to really establish that attachment bond. And that's something that unfortunately children who were adopted older, parents tended to take less leave, take less unpaid leave, and that had an impact on their schooling and on relationships within the family. And so that's one element we've seen. We had many calls from parents who were really asking for help, and that has really gone down because they don't feel that burden anymore. And the guilt of feeling that their child isn't ready to leave the nest, but still having to drop the child off at daycare for younger children or to school. We need to understand that for a child who's adopted, daycare, whether it's in a family environment or an institution, it can look like another foster family, another orphanage. So time that the parent spends with the child to help the child understand that this is their permanent family, it can make a huge difference when later on they go to other institutions or other places.
Madame Despatie.
Ms. Despatie, how will this change things for society, all of the work that you've done, and that I hope we will make a reality here? I think it will make for stronger families. It will strengthen Canada. It will allow our children to really develop to their full potential, regardless of where they are. When there's an adult with whom the child is bonded, that the child can count on, But the obstacles before us, well, there are fewer of them. And so I really envy Quebecers who've been able to benefit from this, and I hope that the rest of Canada will be able to benefit from this new leave.
Merci, Madame.
Thank you, Ms. Despatie, Ms. Morel. It's about political will, isn't it? And we will hope that we will have unanimous political will to go forward with what you've experienced and what you're proposing. Thank you.
Merci.
Thank you, Ms. Chabot.
Just for 6 minutes.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you to our witnesses for your extraordinary testimony. Madame Despatie, what is the advance period for a couple who would be adopting? How much advance warning are they given in order to prepare for this life-changing moment?
There's not a, how can I say, I'm looking for my words. It's not stagnant, it's not, what's the word I'm looking for? There's not a trajectory that can say you're going to have 2 months, 3 months. You can get a call and be presented with a child and asked, and then a few weeks later, a few days later, a few months later, they will be moving in with you. So it really depends. It's circumstances, and it really changes from children experience to experience.
Yeah, no, I was surprised. A couple that I know were told, just called and said, you're going to be adopting, and they had to drive 300 kilometers, and then they were told it's not on. And it really struck me the trauma as well for family and the preparation, so the need to have economic issues in place because they had to upend everything on the chance. So how important is it that we have those economic supports in place for the family?
I think it's really important for parents to know that they have a support and that their job is not at risk in growing their family, right? So knowing that they can count on a system that has their back so that they can help us develop our children, that's really important.
Right. You tell a story of adopting 3, were they siblings?
Yes, they were sibling
That's
group.
extraordinary. I raised 3 daughters. If they all arrived at the same time, I'd probably, I don't know what I would have done. Yeah, I would have had I would have lost what left of my hair. How common is that when you're adopting now, you're actually adopting sibling pairs and children who are older and coming out of foster care?
Yes, 11 years ago, it's going to be 11 years, we met our children shortly. And 11 years ago, I would say that this was quite rare to grow your family with 3 older children. But today, sibling groups are norms and older children. And, you know, we have children across Canada, teens that are really longing for permanency. And so sometimes there may be even 18, 19. But it doesn't mean that the parent who is growing their family in welcoming them, that they don't need time because they're older children. We actually need a lot more time because they have experienced so much more losses and struggles along the journey before they join us.
I was pleased that you mentioned Irwin Elman, who I think is one of the great heroes. And he was the very first person Doug Ford fired when the Ford government came in. I mean, Irwin Elman kept children alive with his work. And I mention him because in my region, adoption has some very, very dark sides to it because of what's happened in Indigenous communities. And I think of Azrea Coca-Penance from Grassy Narrows, Amy Scott, Courtney Scott from Amy Owens, Courtney Scott from Fort Albany. We lost Kanina Sioux Turtle, Chantel Fox, Jolyn Winter. We lost all these children. And Irwin Elman documented what happened to them. They just went into a black hole in this foster care system. So Adopt for Life has called for support for kinship and customary care so that these Indigenous children could have been raised and protected in their communities and in their culture. Do you have language that could help us for the legislation? Have you looked at that on the importance of kinship and customary support so that Indigenous children are not being taken out of their communities and dropped into the black hole that they are all too often thrown into?
Absolutely. We would be delighted to be working alongside to make sure this is definitely, we know how kids, grandparents, and aunties and uncles and customer care are so important into the life of our children, and so they deserve to have the right support. So we would be delighted to work alongside to make sure that they're reflected in the language of any legislation.
Well, again, I think Erwin Elman, who to me is the ultimate expert I've met in terms of him and Cindy Blackstock, in terms of understanding children, that there's a reality facing Indigenous children who cannot be raised by their parent necessarily or their parents, but can be raised in the customary culture. How that we make sure that we don't repeat these mistakes, so that we give adoptive parents all the support that they need, that we give older siblings that support. So I would certainly encourage you to speak more with Erwin, because he really has an understanding on this file.
Absolutely.
Yes, thank you. Finally, I guess I read one of the questions or a letter that someone had said that was opposed to the bill because they said that maternity benefits were never meant to acknowledge parenthood, and maternity benefits existed to deal with the trauma, the physical process of childbirth. Am I missing something? Is there a contradiction or a conflict between maternity and parental benefits for this that we should be addressing, or is this?
No, this is a parity, and I think that you can find more information and better understanding through the reports that Western University created, and that will explain. But this is not a comparison. We are not taking anything from birth families. It is just providing more attachment because we have not had those attachment time period.
Excellent. Thank you so much for this.
Madame Morel, do you briefly want to comment?
Yes, I just wanted to add that it's the reason why in Quebec, adoptive mothers don't receive a maternity leave. They receive the welcome and support leave. So different benefits for different needs. It's the same length because we wanted to be fair to all families. And if we had looked at the needs, sometimes it would have been more time for adoptive families, but we didn't want to create inequality by correcting inequality, so that's why everyone is equal. But the distinction in wording is there for that argument.
Thank you, Mr. Angus. Now, Ms. Ferrari for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you to the witnesses for being here today to chat about Bill C-318, which was put forth by my colleague MP Falk, an act to amend the Employment Insurance Act and the Canada Labour Code for adoptive and intended parents. Very, very important legislation. And Ms. Despetit, if I can ask, do you have any data around on how long it takes older children to bond or attach to their adopted parents? Do you have that data?
I don't have scientific data, but what I know and what I was told earlier on is when a child comes into your home, it takes double the time of their age. So when my children came into our home, to be solidly attached, and so our children were 8, 11, and 13, and for some of them it was very difficult at the beginning to truly attach. I don't think that we needed the 13 years for our 13 years old. She's 24 and she's solidly attached, and so are all of our children, but it does take time. It really, because we have to repair the loss of attachment that they've been robbed of. They have lost a lot of people in their life, and so it does take a significant amount of time.
Yeah, I actually find the science of this discussion fascinating. When we look at the prefrontal cortex of developing and what happens in those formative years. So I think it's a very, very important discussion when we look at how important this legislation is, because there is a very scientific aspect to this that also turns out a social end as well. And so to that point, I'm wondering, do you have any data on kids who are in foster care that don't get placed with permanent adoptive parents and their trajectory? Like, I know that they are more at risk, right? They have a lot more higher acuity issues. Do you have anything around that?
I don't have all the data here. I think you'll have a speaker soon that will be more able to speak to this. But you're right that the trajectory of children's aging out of care is more challenging. Their ability to complete university, to create solid attachments as they grow, it's just difficult because they have been failed by a system that is just not there to support them. And we don't want our Canadian children to age out of care without having an adult to be attached to.
And trust. The reason I ask you that, I guess, it's to my next point of how do you think this bill will incentivize somebody who is considering adoption that may financially not be able to do it or may not be able to take that time off work because they're fearful because they do know it takes time to attach and to bond. Do you think that this legislation will incentivize parents who are considering adopting to adopt?
Absolutely. I was referring to stats that stated that 21% of interviewed parents during the study said that the current 35 weeks prevented them from adopting a child with complex needs. Well, a lot of our children who are waiting for permanency do have complex needs and are experiencing loss and trauma that requires so much more time. So I fundamentally believe, especially with the older children. So, you know, when I grew my family, they thought, oh, you can sleep your night. Well, no, excuse me. It doesn't mean because my children are 8, 11, and 13 that it's rosy and easy at home. There was so much sadness and grief that it was not easy, right? So I truly think that especially our older children, they need more time from us so that they can really know that we're there for good, that we're there.
That is very well said. And the complexities of needs, it's sort of a chicken and an egg. You know, they have complexities of needs because they don't have that bond, because they don't have that attachment. So it's a very chicken and egg thing. And I think you are 100% right. As a mom, I can tell you the complexities of what our children need as they age desperately, it definitely changes. If I could add, I think I only have a minute or so left, Chair.
20 seconds,
Oh,
15 seconds.
Just your advice to somebody who went through this, and I know it is impossible to describe it, but how valuable was it for you to adopt those 3 children?
It was life-changing. It was difficult. It was never an easy moment. There was a lot of joys, but sparkled across the spectrum of the years. But truly, my life would not be the same without them. And even in the hardest moment, I was asking one of my child, and I said, so, you know, what would you like me to say to people? You know, because it is difficult. We're struggling together significantly. And my child said, well, tell them that on your dying bed, you will know that it was all worth it.
Thank you, Ms. Ferrari and Madame Despatie. Mr. Long for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Chair, and good afternoon. Ms. Despatie and Ms. Morel, thank you for your testimony this afternoon on this important legislation, or this important private member's bill. So, I mean, look, I'm thrilled what's happening. I mean, obviously MP Falk with 318, but I was thrilled to see this in the Fez. And I know through social media, I believe you did have a meeting with Minister Boissonnault. Ms. Morel, I believe you had a meeting with the minister also?
Pas au niveau canadien.
Not at the Canadian level because our efforts were really at the Quebec level.
Okay. Well, Ms. Despatie, you did have a meeting, and I'm just wondering if you can share with us, you know, about that meeting and your thoughts of seeing it in the Fez.
Well, meeting with any ministers is always an honor and a privilege because we know that the work that we're doing to bring forward change is important and requires a lot of time. So it was a good meeting that we had. We were surprised. We were extremely happy to know that there's more commitment and support to see this bill coming through. At the end of the day, to us, our only focus is to see children and youth benefit from more time to attach with their family, period. So we were delighted and we're hopeful. We're hopeful at every level that, that this government will be putting this through.
Ms. Morel, can you just speak to our committee about just how important and how meaningful it was to see that included in the fall economic statement?
For us, even though it's already done for our parents, we feel solidarity towards all adoptive families. We've experienced it, we know what it's like, and we think that all children in Canada and all families deserve this. So we were very pleased, and that's why we are here today, to support Adopt for Life and all of the other adoptive families of Canada. You will change their lives, quite simply.
Thank you. Ms. Desbortis, can you just speak to how important it is to access the benefits before the arrival of the child, which we're including in the FES?
Again, I believe Mr. Angus was asking about the time when we get the call. And so, you know, sometimes, for example, we had to commute back and forth. We were based in Toronto and our children were in the London area. So every weekend we would commute back and forth for a period of 2 months, 3 months before they moved in. So yes, technically that could be helpful, obviously. It could be helpful for international adoptions or families who are adopting privately too. So yes, it is important, but I also believe that it is available in the parental leave.
How long have you been advocating for these changes?
A year after we grew our family to adoption, I started Adopt for Life, and that was the first mandate that the community that we spoke with asked us. We officially began publicly advocating in 2018 and have met with several parties and have received the endorsement of everyone and employers as well. Everybody is in support of this.
Okay, well, look, thank you. I think I'll just ask you one final question. Can you just speak in 30 seconds or so, just how important this is to adoptive parents, how meaningful this will be and how it will change, you know, their go forward?
Yes. Having enough time to attach with your child and giving the child enough time to bond with you is what is most important time. And truly, for me as an adoptive mom, I spent, I don't know, 6 months teaching phonics to my son who couldn't, as the Frenchie mom to an English kid, he didn't think I could teach him, but I did. And he said to me, how come that you're the one who taught me this? And I said, because you need the commitment and the time of one parent who can do this for you. And this is what giving enough time to family means.
Thank you. Madame Chabot, pour 2 minutes.
Ms. Chabot, 2 minutes and a half.
Point of order, Mr. Chair.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just so that not to interrupt Ms. Chabot mid questioning, I just wanted to bring up your earlier point that you had made regarding motions, routine motions, and I just wanted to bring to your attention and to the committee's attention that routine motions had passed by the committee on December 13th, 2021, which guarantee each party, quote, the time for questioning. And so a member has the right to move a motion whenever they have the floor, which triggers a debate on the motion. And as a debate on the motion is not spent questioning the witnesses, it cannot be counted against questions, which is guaranteed to each party. Therefore, the chair must uphold the member's right to ask questions for the allotted time to their party during routine motions. So I wanted to bring that forth, Mr. Chair, for your consideration moving forward for motions coming forward, because that wasn't how we followed the process for today.
Thank you, Ms. Gray. I will take that under consideration and report back to the House. Madame Chabot.
Ms. Chabot.
Merci.
Thank you. Ms. Morel, can you tell us about your journey and the journey of your group in terms of arguments to advance the cause in Quebec? Were there obstacles? What arguments won the day finally in that battle? Yes, my pleasure. The argument that blocked everything was really the argument of the fear of biological parents suing because they hadn't understood the importance of adoptive parents having equivalent leave. There's nothing about that happened. The many petitions that were done in Quebec were supported by thousands of Quebecers. People understood very well that adoption is complex. There are particular challenges that children have experienced: negligence, violence, malnutrition, even in utero. These are children who weren't always desired, who didn't always have optimal conditions. So people were totally aware of that. And we recognize the importance that women have maternity leave that's protected, that dads have their paternity leave, but we needed another measure to meet other needs, quite simply. So we weren't taking anything away from anyone. We were just adding what was necessary for all children in Quebec to have the same rights, to be able to be with their parent for a year. You are yourself an adoptive parent. You also represent many parents in terms of support work for parents. Can you tell us more about that? Yes. We are present before adoption so that people can properly understand what attachment is. Adoptive parents don't go into things blindly today. Thankfully, we have literature on this. There's no guide on becoming a parent, but there's a lot of information available. It's possible to meet with other adoptive parents. All of the science shows what best supports parents to know that they are not alone, that others have gone through the same thing. So we prepare them ahead of times. It can be a long wait, but then the child can arrive very quickly, and we accompany them through that. And as I said earlier, since 2021, I receive far fewer calls from parents in distress who feel that the child is not ready to go into childcare, but having to push them into that because they have to go back to work. And those are calls that I don't get anymore. The 18 weeks in our case, the 15 weeks in your case, really totally changed the situation. Thank you, Ms. Chabot.
Just to conclude, 2.5 minutes.
And thank you to our speakers. In my previous round of testimony, I felt it necessary to put on the record the dark side of how adoption was used as a policy that still impacts our region, the Indigenous communities in Treaty 9. Because those policies were adopted at committees like this. And so I think we always have to have that frame when we put policy in place. What are the unintended consequences? But in saying that, I also feel I'm hearing a very heroic story of people stepping up with love. And this is a beautiful story. And so we need to make sure that our policies reflect that. And I certainly know many young people who've, in fact, some very close family members raised through adoption who've become extraordinary, loving, caring. But they need those role models. And your story and Madame Morel's story has really been moving. I would like to ask you in my final few minutes, Madame Despatie, in terms of the support that you can give to other would-be parents. Is that what your organization does? Someone decides they're going to take on a child with special needs, someone who's 10 or 12 years old, in and out of the foster care system with multiple issues. What kind of support is there for not just for the child, but for the adult?
Absolutely. Adopt for Life's purpose is truly to break isolation, to make sure that, from the moment you embark on your journey to grow your family through adoptions, to the moment you're presented a profile, and then your parenting, we're here all along the way. So we help provide peer support. We break down isolation. We help identify resources. We advocate. We raise awareness in the school, in the communities. We just walk alongside because we believe that together we're stronger, and that we can, uplift, celebrate the greats, and support when we're in distress. So that because other parenting is unique and challenging. But parenting through adoption and permanency is something that is quite different, and many people just don't understand. So we shed a light on that, but with us, amongst us, we are able to really understand that, we say it takes a village. I actually think it takes a country to come together in supporting families formed through permanency.
Thank you for that.
Thank you really for the two witnesses who appeared and spoke from your personal perspective and truly from your heart. Very compelling testimony to the committee. Thank you so much. Merci beaucoup. The meeting is adjourned. Madame.
Thank you.